Welcome to part 2 to the road to secession. Now we're going to talk about compromise and rebellion. Now all roads have mile markers, and so this road to secession is going to be no different. We're going to begin with sectional tension mile marker number 1, which is the Missouri Compromise there in 1820. Right? Missouri had applied to become a state. It had been carved out of the Louisiana Purchase territory, right? But it's going to be rejected, and the reason why is that Missouri had applied to enter the Union as a slave state, and that caused a problem amongst the northern free states. The northern free states had a majority in the House of Representatives because of their population, but at the time there was 11 free states and there were 11 slave states, right? So that means in the U.S. Senate there was 22 free state senators and 22 slave state senators. To allow Missouri to come in, that would set the balance of power in the Senate in favor of the slave states, right? You would have 24 slave state senators and only 22 free states, right? So the House rejects it. Henry Clay comes in with the compromise, the Missouri Compromise. What did it do? Well, it took Maine and detached it from Massachusetts and made it part of the United States as a free state, allowing Missouri to come in as a slave state. Now we've maintained that balance of power. 12 and 12, right? With the rest of the Louisiana Purchase territory, it also determined how slavery will be determined there, right? It divided everything along the southern border of Missouri, the 3630 line. Everything below that line would allow slavery. Slavery could exist anywhere south of that line. North of that line, slavery was prohibited, right? And Henry Clay had hoped that he had put the issue of slavery to bed for another generation. He's wrong. It's not going to be nearly that long. As a matter of fact, the issue of slavery, even in the Louisiana territory, isn't quite over yet. Sectional tension mile marker number 2 has to do with the slave rebellion, specifically the Nat Turner Rebellion of 1831. Nat Turner was born in Southampton County, Virginia, and had always been seen as a good slave. He had learned how to read, and he had become a self-described Baptist minister. He would minister to the other slaves. And he kind of, as a result of this, developed kind of a Moses complex, right? He began to see him as the eventual liberator of his own people, right? And so in August of 1831, Nat Turner was on loan to the Travis family, right? It wasn't his actual owners, when a solar eclipse took place. And Nat Turner saw this solar eclipse as a sign that it was time to free his people, a call to action. So on August 21st, 1831, he and 6 other slaves rose up at the Travis family household, broke into the house, and slaughtered the family. Then he and about 75 other slaves began going around Southampton County and literally killing different plantation families, breaking their houses and killing them. Ultimately, the Virginia militia will put this rebellion down. By the time it's done, though, there are 51 white plantation owners and their families killed, right? Nat Turner will escape for the time, but he'll be captured in October of 1831, put on trial in really what was a show trial, executed in November, and then his body will be skinned and parted out and sent across the South as a warning to other slaves. Now, this really scared the South, right? This was the worst slave rebellion they had ever seen. There have been other ones, but not on this scale. And it really led to the South to begin to clamp down on to what slaves could and could not do. Like, for example, every southern state will make it illegal for you to teach a slave how to read. Now, at the same time, William Lloyd Garrison is going to begin publishing The Liberator there in 1831. And it turns out this Nat Turner Rebellion is going to be a significant factor on making The Liberator legitimate, right? And making it the primary voice of the abolitionists in the North. Sectional tension mile marker number 3 is something that we already know about. 1832 and the nullification crisis, right? South Carolina had become frustrated with the protective tariffs, which was preventing them from readily buying the cheap cotton fabric being supplied by England, making it more expensive, and they were using, of course, that fabric to clothe their slaves. So they saw this tariff as an attack directly on slavery. South Carolina went so far as to threaten secession. It's like, that's it, we're going to break away from the Union, right? Andrew Jackson, who was president at the time, if you'll remember, asked them to retrace their steps, right? Reminding them that separation was treason. But this is one of many times, right, that South Carolina is going to threaten secession. So you already have talk about this way back in 1832 of the possibility of disunion if this sectional crisis continues to build.